I'm doing something very random today. Hello and welcome back to the Looking Glass World. My name is Aradhna Matthews and today I am going onto Reddit to find random asks for book recommendations and see if I can find something from my library for you and everyone who's asking. So if you're ready, let's go. A book for the man who's read everything. Sounds a little bit conceited to me, but I will take it. I actually have the recommendation in this room, so I'm gonna get it. This, The Man Who's Read Everything. Tell me if you've read this. The Arrival. I can guarantee that you haven't because Shaun Tan is not a very well-known author. And for the man who's read everything, this could be an interesting new venture for you because this book has no words. So that would be my recommendation for someone who claims to have read everything. Pick up a book with no words. Back to it. Let's see what else we've got here. The best book from my country. That is a lot to ask for, but I actually do have a very popular book / classic addition to everyone's library that I have in mind. Okay, so this is one half of the library. The other half is literally just across there. And if you could see, actually, I will show you the other half first. If you look at the other half, you will see all my books overflowing. I have that classic problem. There is just too much and I'm running out of space. But anyway, that's another day's video. One of the things I say is a staple when we talk about Indian authors is Vikram Seth, and I would say A Suitable Boy it's gigantic as a book and it's a very trophy worthy. It's an excellent book also, but it's also something that really represents India in a very thorough way. So while I may not say that's the best book from the country, because that's a lot to ask for, this is definitely one that you could look at. Oh, suggest me a good book from underrated / unknown author. Unknown, and I've mentioned this before, it's The Aunt Who Wouldn't Die by Shirshendu Mukhopadhyay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I am half Bengali, so if I'm not, my mother's really going to give me an earful. But it's translated from Bangla to English by Arnava Sinha. Short book. I've mentioned this before. I will link that video. It's sort of gothic, but in a traditional Indian household. Relatively unknown, I would say, as an author or a piece of literature, but very, very nice. Okay, what's next? Shall we see? Crime books from a criminal's point of view. I actually have a book that came to mind immediately. I don't think it's in my library, but I did read it in college, and it is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Which reminds me, there is one I actually do have. But actually, I won't show you that recommendation because if I tell you it's from the criminal's point of view, it's going to ruin the entire plot. Actually, might have ruined Roger Ackroyd also, but I mean, that's the first one that came to mind. How to Kill a Guy in 10 Ways. I wouldn't say it's actually about crime from a criminal's point of view, but it's more vigilante, but it does get into murder and stuff, and you really get into why the protagonist is doing what she's doing and why she's killing people. So yeah, that's a pretty good one actually if you want crime from the criminal's POV. Everything is covered in a fresh layer of dust. We had a massive dust storm a couple of days ago, so yeah, it's not fun. Chapter books to read out loud to a very sensitive 6-year-old. Oh, that's so sweet. Let me think back to my childhood reads. One of the first books I ever remember actively reading or being read to me was Amelia Jane is Naughty Again. That was great. I remember enjoying it as a 6-year-old, so that's pretty safe. Well, there's one book I have actually in my collection, but if your kid is sensitive, depends what kind of sensitive. Sensitive to scary things, no problem. But sensitive to sad things, this is gonna break them. I will get it. You can give this child The Giving Tree, but it's very, very sad. Now, I don't know if the level of sadness is going to penetrate to the 6-year-old, but as I was looking for this book, I found another book that I actually kept with me from my childhood days, which is such a wonderful book. It can go even younger than 6 if you're reading it to them. It's very visual, but I loved it. I'm going to show you. It's actually a book by, it's dusty, by Jamie Lee Curtis, illustrated by Laura Cornell, called Tell Me Again About the Night I Was Born. It's such a sweet little book. It's about a little girl who is adopted and how her new parents come to find her. They get the call that she's born, they come to the hospital, they take her. It's such an adorable book, and it so beautifully talks about like adoption in such a natural and loving way. Excellent. For slightly older kids, I don't know about 6 years old, if she's scared easily by monsters, probably not, but maybe 8 or 9 years old, you can do the Ickabog by J.K. Rowling. And the fun part is it also has illustrations that were done by kids during the pandemic. So let me show you. Like, these were all done by children. There are some that are quite scary, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how these children have visualized the scarier characters, but man, I cannot turn these pages. Okay, here we go. You get all kinds of illustrations. This one, then let's see. I hope I don't find the scary one, because that scared me too. You have this one, you have... Oh my god, this is the scary one. Oh my god. It terrified me. It's giving Slenderman or some kind of nightmare. This one, very nice. So all these kids illustrated this book, and you can read it to your kid and have a great time as a family read. It's an epic tale, so always a lot of fun. Oh, suggest me a book that are based on ancient history, fantasy if any. Okay, ancient history I can do, and I can do mythology. I don't have fantasy, I don't think so. But for mythology, I've got some really good ones for you. Starting with Indian author, Palace of Illusions. I've talked about this enough times. Excellent retelling. Go for it. If you want something from different mythologies, we have Circe, also a very, very good read. Definitely recommend. It's an interesting perspective on Greek gods and Circe's place in the whole mix. My exams just finished and I'm looking for books. Well, that's a very broad category, but actually any of the best reads of 2023 you could look at. There are a lot of book recommendations I've done. My Gothic collection has some fun stuff, so you can look at those videos as well. Very picky mystery/horror reader. I like that. Let's see. I have a whole shelf just for mystery and horror. I don't even know where to start. If you want to do something that's critically acclaimed, you will go for The Between. It is excellent, but it's not jump scare horror. It's scary in the premise, and you find out that premise only towards the end. But otherwise, it reads like a very sort of domestic struggles of marriage, kind of day-to-day life, but there's always something weird lurking through all of these supposedly ordinary scenes. So for that reason, you might like this. But if you're looking for something with more jump scare, I've got something too. Pure entertainment. We've got The Sundown Motel. Light read, nothing too crazy or intense to unpack there. It's full of jump scares, ghosts, it's got everything, missing woman, all of that. So if you're into that, you can do this. But if you want something slightly more layered, I've also got one for you. Once and Future Witches. It also tackles sort of it's an alternate world where, witch hunting and all of that is happening, but for different reasons. Magic does exist, but there is a spookiness to it. And it's a story of three sisters who navigate this, and also the larger conversation of feminism in a very fun and entertaining way. I would be doing my horror collection injustice if I didn't give you Dracula. It is a classic, but it is amazing. It's very, very easy to read. You get bragging rights for saying I've read the original Dracula, but it's a great piece of work. I mean, even so many years later, it reads very well. It's not boring, it's not repetitive. Even though you know the story of Dracula, it still gives you something fresh, and I really enjoyed it. It's spooky, great book. Oh, and also if you're scared, this is not the size of Dracula. This is Dracula and other novels, so it's much smaller than this. In terms of mystery, I have a lot, but I'm actually going to give you an unconventional mystery read, and that has humor in it, and that's The Thursday Murder Club. It doesn't fit with your horror ask, because if you're asking for horror and mystery in the same lens, you probably won't go for this. But it's a really fun, light mystery about a bunch of retired people who end up solving cold cases and end up on a very real crime. Very funny. A lot of people who have read this have enjoyed it, and it's also helped people get out of a reading slump. So multiple benefits to this one. A book that starts fast and pulls you in almost instantly. I got you. Yellowface. Excellent book for multiple reasons. The very first sentence is, "The night I watched Athenalou die, we're celebrating her TV deal with Netflix." That doesn't pull you in, I don't know what will. I also recall seeing one as I was reading through, but I can't find it right now, about a book with a twist that I never saw coming, and I immediately thought of this one. It's The Future by Naomi Alderman, who also wrote The Power, which has been adapted into an incredible series on Amazon Prime. This one is like, there's also scientific, sci-fi, whatever, all of those boxes this checks. It's in a world that's approaching dystopia, but only the rich and powerful might have access to the technology that will allow them to survive through it. But things are not what they seem, and I did not see this twist coming. Really enjoyed this book. I'm going to stop because I'm getting quite tired, but I hope you enjoyed these book recommendations, and if you have any other book recs you want, the more specific, the better. Challenge me, let's go. Find an exact trope, an exact scenario, an exact type of book that you're looking for, and let me see if I can find the perfect book for you. But other than that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at The Looking Glass World for more book recommendations, and if you want to read my original work, head to my website at aradhanamatthews.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.